All right, welcome to episode 2 of the Cats Pod. We are recording live from your dingy, creepy old uncle's basement, aka my podcast studio at my house, which makes it kind of weird. I'm Ben Christians. I'm once again joined by my co-host, the illustrious Eric Lauver. How's it going today?
It's going about as good as you can probably imagine. I know people say, "Oh, if it's not close, it's not super fun." But a good blowout is a lot of fun for me.
Mm-hmm.
There's no stress, none.
No stress. It was just nice the entire time. You're like, when is the axe going to fall? The axe was never going to fall.
So I have a question for you. What stood out to you the most?
To me, the most, it was just like we may never have to throw the ball ever. Like in a world of like efficiency and stats taking over everything, and it's like downs 1, 2, and 3, you have to throw the football every single time. The Cats are just like, nah, we're going to run left, we're going to run right, we're going to run up the middle, and we're going to run all over people. And then when you're sick of us running, we're going to throw it for like 20 yards randomly.
Yeah. I think for me, your offense, I got to go defense here. Those guys were studs the whole time. From start to finish, they were all over. Whether they're, plenty of sacks but also just incredible downfield play. Those guys were just everywhere.
They shut them down on like all levels. There was no level where they got anything going. It doesn't feel like. What did they have for yardage?
It's like, I know the quarterback had like 100 and some yards, just barely over 100 yards of passing.
Mm-hmm.
That poor guy was running for his life back there.
101 passing.
Yeah.
208 total yards. 518 total yards for the Bobcats. 346 rushing. Wasn't that over the average? I can't remember what they said the average was at the beginning of the broadcast, but
it's high. It has been high for the last season too.
Yeah.
Very high. But tonight was, it was pretty spectacular. You can go. They have 3 different running backs that can bust one to the house. So you got, what is it, Elijah Davis, I think.
Julius Davis.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, you got Julius Davis. I think he was the leading rusher, but it was unstoppable. The rushing was unstoppable.
Yeah. It was a ton, and I gotta say, bold statement. First conference game of the year. I think Julius Davis might be my new favorite Bobcat. Just like, I love the attitude, and I love when they like run with a chip on their shoulder and everything. And he was chirping the Weber State sidelines, I feel like, the entire second half. He was just like, he was pointing at him like every single time he ran by, and they just kept talking to him. There was one play where he got thrown out of bounds, and I was like, okay, something might happen here. He just pops up, gets out of there, and every single member of that Weber State team was telling him exactly what they felt of him, and he just didn't care.
Yeah.
He just was like chirping right back at him, like, I'm just going to keep doing what I've been doing all game long.
Yeah. All the way through, every single guy who took a carry on that team they were gone. At some point, they broke a big one off. They could not stop the run. But I think we need to throw a little shout out here at our local Drayton Pickering. Sunburst kid had some very, very good plays.
He was the leader in receiving for this game.
Yeah, and 2 touchdowns, and that guy's a beast. He just is.
It's just nice to see him dunk on somebody who's not one of my little cousins. It's nice to see him beat up on like Division I talent the same way he was beating up on my little cousins before. And I hope that they're listening to this, because I hope they hear this.
Oh yeah, I know the last time we talked, we were pretty disappointed and kind of just a bit downtrodden on everything, but this was a statement.
I gotta say,
no Tommy, no problem.
It must be. Was Weber State ranked before this game?
Yeah, they were. I think they were top 10, weren't they?
I don't know. I can't think of it.
Yeah, I think they were. I want to say this was a highly ranked matchup. And it just didn't seem that Montana State ever had a question mark. Now, that being said, we maybe did seize the first question mark on the kicking game.
Mm-hmm.
That was, I don't want to say discouraging. I mean, it's the first year for this kid, but we left some points on the field between missed field goals and missed extra points. But then, backup comes in and he played just fine.
Mm-hmm.
He made what he was supposed to and
did the job.
Yeah.
Weber State 8th.
Yeah.
So the number 3 team versus the number 8 team in the nation, and you go 40 goose egg on them. Mm-hmm. So it just feels good, and it's like, what can we do? And we led up to this because I think in the first episode we talked a little bit about like what's coming down the road, and we had watched Weber State play against, was that UNI?
Yep.
Yeah, UNI.
Yep.
And they looked really bad in the first half.
Oh yeah, it was stale, very stale, just nothing happening. UNI is not very good.
Yeah.
And Weber State couldn't do anything. And then of course they opened it up in the second half. They got the ground game going. Mm-hmm. But that's against a subpar team.
UNI, yeah.
So you put them against a really, really good defense, mm-hmm. and that's what you're going to see. Mm-hmm. But this one means this was a big, not just a statement, but a big statement. I mean, you beat the number 8 team in the country.
Yeah. And it's your first game of conference play.
Right.
Like, this is where the games really start mattering. Yeah. Those first 3 games were, like, fun to get those blowout wins, fun to almost beat SDSU. But this is where it's, like, the real stuff.
Should have beat SDSU.
Should have beat SDSU.
But also, speaking of conference play, there was some interesting games. Sac State lost.
Yep.
And the Grizzlies lost.
Yeah.
So
a bunch of teams falling all over the place. All across the Big Sky.
That makes our game against up in Moscow a little more interesting.
Yeah, it changes a lot about that.
Yeah,
for sure.
And we got to play there. To the Grizzlies deal, I know it's tough to play in Flagstaff, but mm-hmm. that was not a close game.
Yeah. Because we had Weber State losing, Sac State losing, Cal Poly losing, the Grizz, and Northern Colorado today.
Cal Poly got beat by Portland State badly, and Portland State is not that good.
And that's who we see next week, right?
Is it Portland State?
I think it's Portland State in Bozeman. Should be. I think there's a 2:00 kickoff for that game.
I think you're right. Yeah. No, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I mean, Sean Chambers was sharp.
Yeah.
He hit some really good throws, and not a ton of passing, mm-hmm. but what he did do was pretty impressive. I really liked it. I mean, he was super disciplined back there. He didn't turn the ball over. Mm-hmm. He got that 1 sack, but managed to turn that into a penalty.
Yeah. So,
yeah, I think that going into this, I'm pretty impressed with this team right now. The way, of course they're coming off a massive, they just clobbered Stetson last week, but this week, they showed their mettle.
Mm-hmm. It definitely showed, because when we were watching Weber State before, I noticed that they had a lot of pop for like the big play. Mm-hmm. Like they wouldn't get much going, their running would be shut down, and then all of a sudden they'd have like a 60, 70-yard bomb. Mm-hmm. And so the whole time I'm watching this game, I'm like kind of waiting for that shoe to drop. I was waiting for them to get some big play, and it didn't feel like they did get any type of big plays.
Not really, no.
The longest receiving was for 32 yards. Longest rush I'm seeing here is for 14 yards. Those are tiny plays in comparison. You're not really getting that much yards. Shout out to Elijah Elliott.
56,
just making the most out of his carries. Just you get an opportunity on the field and just making the most of it. That's awesome.
No, and it just speaks to the defense. They were flying around that field. They were in the backfield. Every time they dropped back to throw, somebody was right there in the receiver's face.
Yep.
The whole time, the defense was just executing exactly. I can't imagine how happy the defensive coordinator is right now. He's got to be proud. They played the perfect game.
Shut him down. There was nothing else to do except for shut them down, and they didn't even let them get anywhere.
No.
I mean, the only stat I'm seeing that's balanced as far as teams go is like time of possession, which was off by like a minute. The Cats had like one more minute of possession.
Yeah, well,
like,
they were scoring fast. I mean, the first couple possessions were slow. I mean, I think it was punt, and then the Cats really took over, but they could never get anything established at all. There was never a chance for Weber State to get into this game. The Cats shut them down at every point, and to put a goose egg on them.
Yeah,
I mean, that's gotta show. I know this is a long ways away, but that the Cats look this way. North Dakota State has to play South Dakota State this season.
We'll get a really good look at what North Dakota State's going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, playing SDSU that early, they might develop over the season, but it's going to be a good look. Like, seeing North Dakota State play South Dakota State is going to be a really good way to indicate playoff potential, really.
I think another thing that really sticks out to me in this game is Cleveland Thomas he's special.
He's good.
Oh, yeah.
He's good.
Yeah. I was glad to see he was kind of joking around on the sideline after that big catch. It looked like he was all right.
Yeah.
It got called back.
But is the wrist going to be a problem?
I don't know.
Because he was the one that landed on his wrist, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the one that got called back because of a holding penalty. But he was joking around on the sideline with another guy there on the broadcast, and I hope he's all right. We definitely need him. Need him to be around because that guy's special.
You come back and totally redeem yourself after that one missed catch.
Yeah.
Against SDSU. Yeah. Just come back but he's a vet. He's been there for a while. Yeah. So he's got it. The fourth quarter just kind of seemed like adding insult to injury in a way. Yeah. All the points were scored in the second and the fourth quarter, nothing in the first and the third. And when Pickering caught that touchdown, the second one, the one in the fourth quarter, that one, it was like, okay, this game might just be like over. Like, this thing is kind of toasted. And then that's when I drove from my parents' house back to my place, and I turn on the game and it's over, but somehow they scored 2 more touchdowns. So I was like, okay, now I got to rewind back and figure out how they scored these last 2 touchdowns, because I was moving to the creepy uncle's basement for the recording studio, and I was like, what is going on here? And I just saw more running. Yeah. A 56-yard rush from Elijah Elliott and Jared White 14-yard rush.
Yeah.
But
it was, it is like you said, they were just pouring it on. They weren't going to take their foot off the gas at any point. They were trying to get out there and say, we're here. We're the guys.
Are you kind of worried about special teams? Like, special teams is like the only thing I could poke a hole in. And this is where it gets bad, like trying to do this job, like trying to make a podcast about it. Because it's like, you can have an amazing 40-0 thing, and we're like, what's going on with special teams?
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting because that backup kicker, I believe he's from Butte. He played last week against Stetson, and he hit everything that he was asked to. And when our kicker started having troubles, he came in and hit everything he was asked to. Mm-hmm. So we did leave some points on the field.
Literally 2 points. A couple of points.
It was he missed 2 field goals too.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I think he missed 2 field goals and 2 extra points. Or maybe just 1 extra point. Or some combination.
It was 1 extra point, and then 1 got blocked.
Yeah, one did get blocked. Yeah. But still. Mm-hmm. It was points left on the field. But then backup comes in. He looks pretty good. I don't have any kind of gripe with that at all. But you're right. In a close game, that matters a lot. An extra point is important.
Yeah. I mean, it would matter in other games. Not so much in this one.
I just got to throw this out just because we're here. Do you regret not taking Montana State minus 3.5. Like I told you.
I mean, I
Did
wanted
I not
to
tell you
yeah.
that it was a lock?
We were looking at all those. Like I screenshotted all the Montana sports betting lines for this game because I knew we were going to end up talking about it at some point. I do regret it to a point, but I also know my luck. So the Benny curse means that anytime I bet on any team or anything, everybody needs to fade me. And like, I don't want to start betting against my team, so I just generally don't bet on the Cats. Like, because I don't want to ruin them. I don't want to put my stink on the Cats.
That's fair.
You know?
We don't need any bad luck.
Exactly.
We
I'm
don't
trying
need
to,
any
I'm trying
bad
to keep
luck.
us safe here.
But I'm gonna keep cashing these tickets.
Yeah. But the Bobcats versus the spread this year, undefeated, right?
It's been good.
Hasn't it been undefeated? Was there any game where we didn't meet the spread?
Not to my knowledge. I didn't follow last week's.
Maybe
just because we were at that wedding.
But Stetson was such a blowout that it must have.
It had to have.
It had to have come.
I mean, Utah Tech was 33.5. They covered.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been anything crazier than that.
Couldn't have been more than that.
Speaking of which, Utah Tech, now that that's up, Utah Tech loses to the Cats big.
Yeah.
They lose to the Grizz big. They beat Northern Arizona. Then Northern Arizona beats the Grizz.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Does Utah Tech just have like the greatest coaching staff on the face of the earth?
I don't know.
Within the course of 2 weeks,
I don't know.
They just turned around their entire program.
I don't know.
Like,
but
that's all I could see.
The Grizzlies lose to Northern Arizona, which is a hard place to play in, but come on, man. You lose
but it's like now this is just going to turn into a Grizzly bashing session, which I'm still here for it.
Oh, yeah.
But the thing is, like, last week I was super pissed off, and this was the only thing I wanted to talk about if we would have recorded last week, was how Sean O'Malley showed up to that game. And I was like, I have loved Sean O'Malley for so long. He's the only person who's ever made me money gambling. I don't bet on football, but on UFC he made me some money. And he comes out there in the shirt and everything, and that's cool. But then I go to his Instagram, and I see the U of M locker room, and they're dancing around, and they're, like, singing his walk-up song and everything. And they just won by 7 points when they had a 23-point spread. And, like, that's the kind of culture that's building up, and that's why you get upset the first game of conference.
Yeah. I mean, I understand everybody has their loyalties and everything, but I know if me and you were watching a football game, a Montana State football game, and they're playing a Division II school, and they won by 7, we would not be excited about that. Mm-hmm. That's not a good win.
There would be no party in the locker room.
No.
You know?
At least I would hope not. I know everyone says a win is a win.
That is true.
But seriously. Yeah. A win is not a win. Like if you have a Division II school,
no way.
Whether they've won 2 in a row, I mean, I've heard it all from all these Grizz fans. They won 2 in a row. They won 3 out of 5 national championships. It's a Division II school. You are not a Division II school. You're better than that.
But this is what I've been saying for like a few years now. Is just that the Grizz as a program are living in the past. Mm-hmm. Like that is all they are doing. Like you bring back Hauk and you're trying to relive the glory days. And I really don't think he has any idea what to do in like today's day and age. Everything has changed about football. Like in the last 5 to 10 years.
That's a really great, I mean, bringing up Hauk, look at the difference between Bobby Hauk and Vegan. Mm-hmm. That team plays well under Vegan. I mean, he gets everything out of them. Mm-hmm. Every ounce that they got, they give it to him.
They're just passionate about it.
Oh, man.
And, like, the team culture and everything, we talked about this in the last one, but the team culture where everybody, like, just doesn't care who gets the carries, who gets the catches, who gets to throw the ball, who gets whatever, who gets the touchdowns. It doesn't seem like anybody really cares.
Oh, yeah.
They're just like, we're all going to eat.
They had a bunch of broadcasts with Tommy on the sideline with the headset on, and he was hype.
Yeah.
He was stoked.
He was jacked up, ready for his boys.
I can't wait till Tommy comes back, but in the meantime, I'm not scared.
Yeah.
Sean played well.
He did.
Sean's
And
a good
he's going to
quarterback.
continue to play well.
And I like their game plan better this time. I know we the last episode we talked about that we didn't like how much they ran the quarterbacks. And Sean Chambers obviously had a lot of, he ran the ball 12 times. Yep, 12 times. But he also threw the ball quite a bit.
Yeah. And I feel like they had to respect his throwing more because of the way he passed against SDSU, because of the stuff that he's put on film the last couple weeks against Stetson and everybody. They know that he actually can throw the ball. Because, we had no idea until that SDSU game that he really could.
Yeah. And his completion attempt on the statistics here, to see 8 for 17, would you have guessed that before? I guess I didn't even notice the incompletions as much as I noticed what he did passing. He was, to me, watching the game, Sean Chambers was sharp with his throws. He was on target when it mattered.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I didn't even realize he had that many incompletions. Did you?
So I remember a couple plays where he threw at people's feet, which were kind of safety throws, where they had defenders around them, so he wasn't trying to throw an interception, just trying to take care of the ball, throwing an incompletion at the feet, and then just throw out of bounds. I don't think that many of those were real misses. I think they were just smart plays to get the ball out of bounds and not take a sack.
I think you're right. Yeah, I like I said, I didn't think that he had that many incompletions because what he did with the ball was so crisp.
Mm-hmm.
Those throws that really meant something were perfect.
Yeah,
they were on the money. I mean, he hit Pickering in the back corner of that end zone. That was beautiful.
Spot on.
Yeah, beautiful.
Great catch for him, and that's a guy that's been with the program for full 5 years now.
I got to be honest with you. I didn't get to see the first touchdown. Walk me through that one. Did you see that one?
The first one?
I was rolling up that bounce house for the birthday party.
This is real dad stuff going on. It was a 29-yard touchdown.
He was on the money again.
Yeah,
just a real good,
pretty long throw. 24 yards on the second one, 29 yards on the first one. Just a couple of well-placed balls, I think, was all it was.
Yeah.
So next week is Portland State.
Mm-hmm.
Portland State so far, looking at their record, I'll run it down for you. Okay, I'll run it down.
This is a good one.
It is a good one. So first they played Oregon.
And how many touchdowns did Oregon score?
I don't know. You're going to make me do math right now. And math is not my thing, okay? I'm a words man. I am not a math man.
Let's hear the score.
It is 81-7.
Oh, God.
So they scored, but they did score one more point than Colorado. They got one more point than Coach Prime. So, I don't know. They also let them score twice as much. But, they got that. So heavy offense from Portland State.
Yeah.
Then they played against Wyoming, a tighter game against Wyoming, still a 2-score game, but 31-17 on that one. And then, oh my God, get this! They played a team called North American. I don't know who that is, but they beat them 91-0. So they were like, we're going to get beat up on by FBS schools for a minute, and then we're going to come back and we're just going to rail somebody. That's a 6-man score.
Oh, God.
That's a 6-man football score. That's Northern Montana 6-man football right there.
Let's throw nothing but really fast people on the field and see what happens. That's what that kind of score is.
And then they did thump Cal Poly, 59-21.
Okay, so, and I got to be honest with you, I haven't watched anything on Cal Poly, but I have to assume Cal Poly really sucks.
I mean, they can't be that good. I mean, I don't know if these guys were where they were in the rankings, but
Cal Poly hasn't been good in a very long time. To put what they do 59 points on them, I think. Yeah.
59-21.
Yeah, 59 on Cal Poly. I don't really know what to think about that. I just haven't watched any Cal Poly games at all to know what kind of team that is. But I do know that North American, you might as well call that a high school team.
It's gotta be Division II or something. I mean, I have no idea. I've never even heard of them. But both Portland State and Cal Poly are not even falling in the top 25. So it's
No.
two unranked schools beating up
Yeah.
on each other, and
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to mean much.
No. I mean, we walk into Weber State, and I don't know if you noticed, but those stands had a lot of yellow in them. There was a fair amount of yellow in those stands. So kudos to Bobcat Nation for traveling like that. I really like that, especially third down for Weber State. It got noisy in there.
Mm-hmm.
Those Cat fans were cheering.
They're bringing it, and that's Utah, right? Weber State,
Ogden,
Utah. So I mean, that's still a pretty good, decent trek because you're driving that from Montana. Yeah. You're not going to fly, probably.
Yeah, from Valier, that's a solid 10 hours.
Yeah,
minimum.
It's a long ways, but the Cat fans are going to show up, even though I mean, before the game, we would probably think this was a much more important game. But as it was going on, like it felt like anything could happen in it just because of that big play potential that I was seeing from Weber State. But
I was talking to a buddy of mine this morning, and I once again, I told him that Montana State minus 3.5 was the lock of the century.
Yeah, the lock of the century.
And he said, "Well, what if they lose?" And I said, "Well, they won't, but if they do, that would give relevance to the South Dakota State loss.
Yeah,
it would make that actually mean something."
Mm-hmm.
But I knew that this was a lock. I mean, I tried to get everybody I knew to bet on this one.
Yeah,
because everybody was going to win money. Plus, minus 3.5 is a disgrace. The Cats are way better than that.
Mm-hmm. It was, and even on I was looking on ESPN, the Caesar Sportsbook that they have on their website, they had it at -7. Which still one score game when it ends up 40-0.
Yeah.
And over one of
-7 looks pretty good.
Montana sports bet sucks.
Oh, it does.
Like it is the worst because the over under wasn't it like 60, so 65.5 over under for Montana sports bet, and it's 54.5 on Caesar Sportsbook.
Yeah,
like we need to open up the betting.
Honest to God, I didn't think this was. I had absolutely no doubt in my mind that the Cats were going to win, but I did not think they'd put up 40, and I thought this would be a close game.
Also, Weber State can't even pack the stands. They had 10,000 people in there.
Yeah.
And there was probably, you got to say, a couple thousand of that was Montana State.
They had dang near a whole section.
Yeah, at least 2,000, 3,000, so like almost 30% in an away game. Yeah. Away games aren't even away games for us anymore.
Yeah, no.
Like, it doesn't even matter.
You're right. It was their attendances. I mean, and especially being so close to like Salt Lake and everything, they gotta have locals.
Yeah,
I can't believe they couldn't pack the stands there. But I don't. What do you think the difference is? We can fill. Montana State can fill them.
Yeah,
University of Montana can fill them. Why do you think they can't?
I think it's just because in Montana, we just have Montana State and U of M.
Yeah.
And those are our biggest schools, and those are the ones everybody's going to show up to. And in Utah, you've got Utah. And everybody's going to go to a Utah game. And then if you're Mormon, you're going to go to BYU.
Yeah.
And so Weber State's kind of filling in like they got Damian Lillard. That's what they got going for them. But other than that, it's like, why would people show up to a Weber State game unless there's students there or alumni? Like, there's no reason to get excited about the team, I don't think.
I guess. And I think that seems to be a common occurrence with the rest of the Big Sky Conference.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like they can fill stands very easy.
Yeah.
until.
So apparently Spotify's trying to mess with us. They're trying to take us down. They're trying to take us off the air. They decided we can't record for more than 30 minutes on my laptop, so we'll have to change things. But we were talking about filling the stands and why these other schools can't. And I was saying because they don't have any bigger competition there. So.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Yeah, pretty much every state that represents the Big Sky, other than Montana, has a school that is bigger than them. Whether that, Washington has two big ones, Utah has Utah. They just, I think you're probably right there. They just have something. They have something bigger than their FCS football to root for, when that's all we have.
Yeah.
But I will say it is fun to go to a Bobcat game.
Yeah.
Very fun.
Yeah.
And
the entire ambiance of the crowd. That's why we got a college game day.
Yeah.
Being there is a lot of fun.
I bet college game day had a lot of fun when it was, what was that, 15 below, 20 below?
Yeah. Except for Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee can't have any fun because he picked against us.
Yeah.
We still love him, but he still picked against us.
That was embarrassing.
Yeah. It is a bad look for the guy that's now on ESPN. And to talk some trash about ESPN, we wanted to give a little bit more love to the defense about this game because I always focus on offense all the time.
Yeah.
But ESPN has no defensive stats
Nothing.
that they upload here.
Nothing.
I was scrolling around trying to find something, and there's no total tackles or anything like that. But there was two fumbles, one recovery. I saw the one.
No. When it comes to the defense, Brody Grebe was a problem.
Yep.
He was all over back there, harassing the quarterback. Sebastian Valdez.
I saw him get a sack near the end too.
Yeah, he was all over the quarterback. I mean, those guys harassed him the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
They never gave him a break. It's hard to, with a blowout, it's kind of hard to talk about everything because you just focus on how many points the offense is putting up and how exciting that is.
Yeah.
And you don't really think about just how great of a job the defense did, especially against a team like Weber State that can be so potent on offense.
For sure.
I know Weber State they wanted to claim last year was fluky.
Yeah.
With the snaps over the head and those long snappers, or the long snapper costing them that first game. What can they say now?
Overall, the biggest thing is that big old goose egg. I think that's the only defensive stat you really need. We'd love to see who got all those sacks, but I don't have the time to look that up right now.
Yeah.
But they got that big old goose egg over there. Do you think it was more the reason they shut them down was because of the pressure that individual players were putting on, or was it a scheme thing?
Boy, that's a good question. I don't know.
It might have to just be a balance of both.
It has to be. I mean, I do think the defense. I don't want to say better than last year because we had some incredible players on that defense last year. But I mean, can you name any time where you were disappointed in the defense so far this year?
No.
Even against South Dakota State, you can't name anything during.
They got wore down in the second half, but they were also
They didn't give up very many points against a very, very good team.
Yeah, and they got ran over a little bit during that second half during a couple series
against the defending national champions.
Yes, in a very tough game.
Yeah, yeah. So, I just out of respect for the guys who played last year, and I love those guys. I don't want to say this year's defense is better, but I'm going to.
You're going
This-
to.
this-
You're making
this
the
defense is
statement.
better. Yeah,
Okay,
I'm
so
just say it.
you're gonna waffle for a while, and then
Yeah,
you're just gonna actually go with the take.
I'm going to toss it around. I'm going to juggle a little bit, and then I'm just going to come out and say,
Yeah.
this is fun.
I'm firmly falling on the other side of the fence. Not playing that game.
No, I had an absolute blast watching this game. It was a complete butt whooping from start to finish. And aside from a few special teams blunders, you could call this pretty much a perfect game.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
Very solid game. Nothing to complain about other than a block PAT and a missed PAT, which isn't much to complain about at all.
Yeah. A missed field goal too in there. But
so I was looking up tickets for Portland State next weekend, and they are cheap.
Yeah, I know Portland State is, their record shows that they're putting up some points. And would you say they scored 17 on Wyoming?
Yeah. It's going to be different. I don't see them scoring anything
in Bobcat Stadium.
No,
with the crowd. I don't see that, and I wish I should have watched some Portland State games, but I'm not going to.
No, no need to scout it.
I think
we'll tell you everything about Portland State next week when we come back with the third episode of the Cats Pod.
Yeah,
I think we're good here. Shout out to our 8 loyal fans that listened to the podcast last week. This week we're going for those double digits.
Yeah,
we're hitting the double digits. That's what we're going for. 10.
Fans.
Tens of fans. Here we go.